Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of the Cool Down Lap, our behind the scenes look at the drivers that we cover here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. All 5 leagues, all 5 new drivers, and we cannot wait for all those great interviews that we got to have. So let's start things off with the ISRC Truck Series, where Christopher Norris gets to have a conversation with Ollie Fonseca on the ins and outs of being in NASCAR as well as racing virtually.
Hi, my name is Christopher Norris, and today I'll be covering the ISRC Truck Series. Today, joining me is Ollie Fonseca. Wait, you're Jorge. What do you want to be called?
Ollie.
Okay, it's Ollie then. So first off, I'll ask you a general question. How are you doing today?
I'm all right.
Well, that's always good. So the first question, that's an actual question about racing, is what got you into racing, and honestly, iRacing as well?
Well, I've always just had a passion for it. I just remember going to Daytona once with my grandpa as a kid, and I was hooked on. I can't remember how old I was. I think it was the 2007 500. I vaguely remember it, but yeah, from then on, I'd just be watching the races with him and my dad, and yeah, and then it wasn't really until 2014 that I really started watching on a weekend basis. Um, and yeah, it's just kind of what I always saw, and I finally got the sim in 2020. I actually spent my government stimulus check to get my setup rig, so that's how that happened. And then a few years down the line, I saved up some money working and just decided to pack it all up and move to NC to try to hunt something down and see what I really wanted to do. And yeah, here I am.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure how old you are actually, but if this is actually a fun fact, I was born in 2007. Does that make you feel old?
Maybe a little bit. I'm 22. I'm about to turn 23 in May here. So
Yeah, that's fair enough. So with iRacing, of course, there's league racing, and you've been in ISRC for roughly about 2 to 3 seasons. We're going on to our fifth, actually just about ending the fourth. So what got you into league racing when you first started racing, or whenever you started doing leads?
well, when I first got the sim, I was just doing, the fixed and official races like any other person would. And after about a year of just doing that, I kind of noticed how much potential I had. I moved up the ranks pretty quick, and it was pretty crazy. I ended up racing with a couple big names. Like I did a truck race with Dale Jr. once. That was like a dream come true. That was pretty awesome. Ross Chastain, a couple other people, and that's when I realized maybe I should try to see about some more competitive stuff because that'd be really fun. So I ended up looking for leagues and stuff, and I was on Instagram one day and saw that they were recruiting, and so season two was when I made my first start, and yeah, it just kind of went on from there.
So with ISRC, you mentioned Instagram. Now they do have a decent Instagram following, so that's actually where you found them from?
Yeah.
That's honestly interesting because most leads they do promote on Facebook in different groups and iRacing forums and also Reddit. So moving on from that subject, you said you race against other drivers and all that stuff. Do you still do officials and any other leads?
So the official stuff, not so much, just because I don't really have time for it, honestly. If I do ever get a chance, so every once in a blue moon, I'll try to run one. Um, but yeah, most of my focus is in the ISRC league. And then I did recently start a super late model league that I try to make all the races for, but just since it's those races are on Sunday nights, with my schedule for work, I'm not always able to make those races, but I usually try.
So let's talk about yourself the last couple of seasons. You got your first win last season. Now, it is only your third season this one, but you've honestly progressed a lot from the minute you came here. Now, you captured, I believe it was at Dover last season, and this season you actually had a couple runner-up finishes, being last week at Bristol and at Kentucky, which was a third place finish. How are you feeling, and how much have you noticed the growth throughout the time?
Um, yeah, season two, for me, it was definitely rough to say the least. Um, just getting my my feet wet and trying to figure out how to be competitive with most of those guys. And the like Sam said a couple times, the speed was definitely there. I just couldn't put full races together, whether it was bad luck or making some sort of mistake on my part. So after that, I just kind of learned from it, step back. Season three started for ISRC, and that's when I really took off. And then, matter of fact, even before that, I had a lot of friends and family that were watching me in season two, and they could just tell how crappy my luck was. And that's when Brandon decided to step in. He's been a long, long time friend of mine. So he decided to download the sim, get an account, and start spotting and crew chiefing for me. And ever since he's joined, I've just been so much more consistent. Um, I've definitely been able to keep the frustration down a lot more. And he just keeps me really level headed. Just having that voice in my ear, I don't know why it makes so much of a difference, but it honestly does. And I don't know if the other guys in the league with spotters would agree so much with me, but it really, really helps me because I don't have to focus about other stuff. I could just drive. Um, so Homestead in season two, we got our first podium together, the last race of the season, and yeah, we just kind of took off from there. And he's just done an amazing job.
Yeah, so you gave a huge shout out to your spotter slash crew chief, which helps you out throughout the races. And moving on with Bristol and also Kentucky, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, you finished third and second there. I mean, that's pretty good runs throughout the season. This one before, where you almost got a second and possibly a third win. How are you feeling moving on with the next few races where it's some tough tracks, especially with it being the playoffs? How do you feel moving on and capturing maybe a win before the season ends?
Um, well, I think the thing I'm most thankful for is not having Talladega as the cutoff race for the round of 16. um, so yeah, the road course, the Daytona road course, I'm pretty confident about that one. Not necessarily about getting a win, but I think I can get a solid finish out of there. I'm not one of the best road course racers by any means, but I'm usually able to, run in the top 10 all day and just get some solid points out of it. So that's my plan for that one. Um, and then Homestead is honestly one of my best tracks. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, hopefully we'll just at least make the round of 12 this time, and then we'll see where we go from there. But yeah, I'm confident about it. I like the playoff schedule. I'm excited about it. Some of those tracks on that schedule are some of my best. So we'll see what happens. And yeah.
Now, one thing I did not know is that actually coming off the regular season, you finished 13th in points, even with that decent run at Bristol, which is surprising, especially with, like I just said, the decent run at Bristol. So, how are you feeling and preparing for the playoff push that's yet to come?
Um, see the preparing part, that's the difficult part for me, just because the practice time is not um as much as I'd like it to be compared to what it was last season. Last season after I didn't make the playoffs, I was disappointed, but I feel like I turned that into motivation, and I started practicing nonstop, especially with Danny and the Larson line guys, because I knew I was going to be teammates with them the next season. So we would practice a crap ton and just log lap after lap, and that definitely, obviously paid off. If I hadn't been knocked out, I might have even made the final four. Honestly, we were that fast. So we'll see. I'd like to try to squeeze more practice time in for this playoff push, but just the schedule and the things going on in my life, it's gonna be tough. But we'll see. I just know I'm motivated and just want to get clean finishes.
Yeah, and one quick question to cap. So, I mean, there's about 4 rounds in the playoffs. You have the round of 16, which we're in now, the round of 12 and 2 weeks, and then the round of 8, 2 weeks after that. How far do you think you're going to be able to make it?
Like I said, I'd at least like to make it to the round of 12, just at the bare minimum. But if I just follow through with my plan, I know I can make it to the round of eight. Um, and then that round of eight has the track where I got my first and only win at. So anything can happen there. We'll just have to see. I'm excited though. I'm definitely ready.
Yeah, and on you mentioned a few times about timing and availability, and that means in real life you have a job like most other people, and that job I believe is actually working for a team. Which one would that be?
Alpha Prime Racing, NASCAR Xfinity team.
And with that being, you're an avid iRacer and you're a real life team member, how is it working with real life NASCAR going to tracks sometimes on a week to week basis and working all the time?
Um, yeah, I mean, I can't complain. It's what I signed up for. It is a dream come true, honestly. I remember when I went to my first race at Daytona, I was doing some getting my first set of tires ready for practice and qualifying there, and Tommy Joe Martins, the owner of the team, walks up behind me and he asks me, and he's like, "How does it feel to be at Daytona? Working for an Earnhardt, Jeffrey?" And I just looked down. I was like, "Man, it's a dream come true." Um, if you had told me, a couple years ago that I'd be doing this, I'd tell you to shut up. There's no way. And yeah, so that's the good part of it. The only issue is just the hours and the time that I'm devoting to this. Like I said, it just takes away a little bit of the potential practice time that I'm able to put in this league. But this obviously comes first for me. I'm trying to make a career out of this, and yeah, I love it. It's fun, getting to travel the country, and doing what I love. So it's pretty cool.
And you said travel in the country, you get to see all the different tracks and you get to see all the real cars in firsthand. How is it just overall working in the NASCAR environment? I mean, it's not, especially with being a sim racer, you meet some different drivers. And one quick question is, what if you've met a good amount of drivers, which one's your favorite that you met so far?
Oh shoot, I mean Jeffrey's a pretty cool character. Ryan Ellis, he's a really funny guy. I like working with him. Those are my drivers though, and I've seen and spoke briefly with a couple others. One that I can't help but mention. I don't know if I can say I necessarily met him, but in Phoenix, I was at Goodyear picking up a set of four, and I look over my shoulder, and there he is, the king, walking right by me. He smiles at me, and I wave at him. He waves back at me, and I just was like, "Holy crap! Did that just happen?" So that was pretty cool. I've seen Chad Canals a bunch of times here and there. Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon walked right by me at Daytona. So it's pretty surreal seeing all these people that I watched on TV as a kid. Um, it really is pretty insane. So yeah, I mean it's definitely quite the environment to work in.
And also looking at Alpha Prime Racing, you actually worked under David Schildhaus, actually.
Yeah.
And so he's an avid iRacer as well. He races all the time, I believe, in Monday Night Racing. You also have, I believe, he's in the Cool League and many others. I mean, I don't know if you have actually had the opportunity to talk with him, but I mean, he's also another guy who is starting off as an iRacer, has done other projects in real life, and then now is moving on to NASCAR. How is it being someone like that who, like I mentioned, have been starting in NASCAR, I mean, iRacing, and then moved on to NASCAR? It's kind of not necessarily, I would say, paved opportunity because you're not a driver, but it's still, it's gauged your interest.
Yeah, I actually do get to talk to David quite a bit. He's definitely one of my favorite guys to be around when I'm at the shop. He's not always there, but when he is there, he's someone I definitely look up to. He's a good role model for me to have. Just really friendly guy. Does a lot for us guys, and yeah, if I could set one goal for myself, I guess it'd be to be in a position like he's in, and do what he does, at the level that he does it. I remember when I first met him, he walked up to me and introduced himself. I was like, "Oh yeah, I know you. I'd watch your videos on iRacing and try to use it to help me on official and league races." And he's like, "Well, did they help?" And I was like, "Yeah, they definitely did." And he you could tell that definitely meant a lot to him to hear that. So that was pretty nice. But yeah, awesome character, great personality, pretty funny guy. I love working with him.
Now, Will, I mean, you're starting off an IRA scene and moving on to your life. Is there ever going to be an opportunity where you plan on looking into maybe possibly driving a vehicle? Not necessarily like a NASCAR, maybe a smaller super late model league. I mean, you're starting off in NASCAR. There can be some connections. Is there any plans in the future?
Definitely not anything right now. Would I like to? Yes, absolutely yes. I'd do anything to just get behind the wheel of a real life race car. Um, but at the moment, there's nothing set in stone. Right now, my main focus is getting on through this first season with Alpha Prime and doing the best I can, getting all the experience I can get, and just seeing what happens throughout the season and what I end up doing afterwards. But yeah, I'd definitely jump on the first opportunity that someone would be willing to give me to do that IRL.
Now, just a quick question. Does Alpha Prime Racing have a simulator?
No, we don't,
Um,
unfortunately.
that would have
I
been
know
interesting to
some of the
try.
drivers have one, back at home that they try to use. But as far as like actually in the shop, no.
Have you guys ever done a team race?
We haven't. I know there's a couple guys that do the sim here and there. But the funny thing is, actually, most of them actually use NASCAR Thunder 2003, which is kind of interesting to me. But yeah, a lot of those guys actually play on that. And then I know me and David have talked about doing a couple races together just for fun. We just hadn't got around to it yet.
Now, with the driver I believe you worked for mostly is Jeffrey Erhardt. Do you think you could beat him in an iRacing race?
At a road course, probably.
Yeah.
He's definitely talented. But he's definitely more of an oval guy. But yeah, no, he's a talented driver. I know we haven't had the finishes to really show it. We've just the luck for Jeffrey's team so far this season has been pretty much right up there with my ISRC season two. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, and it kind of stinks. It really blows. And now I know what it's like to have things not go your way IRL, and what these teams really go through when they don't run good or when they junk a car or when things don't come to fruition like they're expecting. But I think our shop does a good job of getting through that and making the most out of those situations. And the finishes are going to come, so I'm not worried about them.
Yeah, of course. And I will say thank you for joining me tonight, and good luck with the regular season. I mean, mainly the playoffs with the rest of the ISRC Cup Series, and good luck in your life without the primary scene.
Thanks, man.
Yep, thank you for joining us.
What a great talking of Christopher Norris and Ollie Fonseca, the ins and outs, and the great people that Ollie gets to work with. And now let's go on over to our Tuesday night league, the Full Send Racing Series, where Trevor Erhardt gets to talk to that of Cole Sichette on his way of finding the Full Send Racing Series.
All right, this is Trevor Erhardt with Freaky Fast Broadcasting. I've got Cole Sichette, the driver of the 42 Chevrolet from Full Send Racing Series, with me here tonight. Cole, how you doing?
Good. How about you, man?
Doing pretty good, man. Happy to have you on the podcast this week. Was kind of informed to have you as one of our guests from Travis, the admin there, and said you'd be a great partner to have on, and happy to have you here tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to be here, man. I'm happy that Travis recommended me as well. Great guy right there that you guys talk to all the time, and love racing with those guys. So definitely happy to be here, man.
Well, first question for you, Cole, is tell us, how you got into iRacing. Everybody kind of has a different story. So what got you into iRacing, and what's been your experience with it so far?
Yeah, so iRacing for me kind of dates back a long time. It actually dates back before like my iRacing experience. So I actually raced myself coming through quarter midgets, and then went to dirt mod lights up here in the northeastern side of things. They're pretty big in like Pennsylvania, stuff like that. But so ran some mod lights, then got back into asphalt, did a little bit of late model racing, ran some super trucks, and let's see, after late models, we got into super lates for a little bit, and then kind of the past like 10 years, 8 years-ish, I've been kind of like just floating around, kind of living life, honestly. Went through like a bunch with racing. I mean, I started racing when I was 6, so. But anyway, always busy with that. And I actually got started in iRacing from Nick Holland, one of my best friends from high school. He was telling me for like 5 or 6 years, hey man, get on, would love to race with you, everything. And finally made the jump about 2 years ago now. I mean, my membership still says 1 year, so I'm in that weird limbo where it's like between 1 and 2 years. But yeah, kind of just jumped on, did the usual thing like everyone does, start with controller and then went up from there. And yeah, just been kind of cruising ever since. I'm working on my iRating now, try to do a little bit of road to pro, so hopefully we'll see. I don't like officials as much as a lot of people do, but there's a lot of toxicity there, so I'm trying to get through that part of it, but we'll see.
No, toxicity in officials? Never. And okay, so now you got me curious, because a controller is how you started with all this? You didn't like go entry level like Logitech wheel or Thrustmaster T150. You just jumped right in with a controller.
Yeah, so I did. So I started with Thrustmaster T300 RS, but before that, for like probably a solid month and a half, I ran with controller because I didn't have the money at the time. I mean, I was like, well, do I really want to make the jump? I don't know how this is going to be compared to actual racing because I had that experience, and I heard some whispers of what iRacing was compared to real life experience, so that made me hesitant at first. But as soon as I really started to get into it with the T300 RS, I thoroughly enjoyed iRacing, and now I've got a crazy setup sitting that all of my friends love to come and hang out on when I'm not iRacing. Okay. And yeah, go ahead.
No. So you go from the controller, the T300. So what is the current setup? Are we talking like the triples with the direct drive and all that good stuff?
So I'm trying to get triples, but I don't really have the space for triples right now. So I just have a 34-inch monitor attached to my rig, but I do have a SimuCube 2 Pro that I just went up to, probably about 3-4 months ago, Christmas time now. Okay. But yeah, so I mean, honestly, the thing with the hardware, right, is for me, it was I had to get good enough first. And I knew I had that raw speed and talent, to get there. But I started to hear how things could get better talking to a bunch of guys. And, what was the best thing that you could buy, did my own research, stuff like that. So it took me a good while to get to where I'm at. But did a lot of research and got to, like I said, I got the SimuCube 2 Pro and then the Fanatec V3 inverted pedals are like my two big things. But I got a lot of money invested in it, and now lately with me jumping in officials, I get on MS every night, so I feel like the money's definitely well spent now.
Yeah, that's the one thing that they always tell you about iRacing is, you got to pay for cars, tracks, all that stuff, plus your subscription on top of that. But it's when you get down to the hardware. And I was in the same boat. I started with the G920 and then went to the Fanatec 8nm direct drive with the V3 pedals once I felt, I was going to be invested in it and going to continue doing this as long as I have. So I understand where you're coming from. So yeah. To me, though, the wheelbase, and you might be different, I didn't feel like the wheelbase made that big of a difference. To me, it was the pedals. The feeling the pedals and feeling what your inputs are doing to the car made more of a difference than the actual wheelbase to me.
Yeah, for sure. So the thing with that, with like the pedals, because when you talk to people like Ken Campbell has been like one of the biggest inspirations for me with the iRacing thing, and I don't know why. I think it was like seeing Ken run in the Stars and Stripes series, and because Holland originally told me about Stars and Stripes series, that's where he started. And I used to watch those races, and I saw Ken, and I started, picking Ken's brain on what he thought would be the best starting point to upgrade. So for the longest time, probably like 6-7 months, I ran the T300 wheelbase with the pedals, going off of what he was telling me, was the best thing to upgrade first. And man, as soon as I switched my pedals over to these inverteds, like it was like a light switch, man. I mean, the throttle and brake control that you can get with a set of pedals is insane. Just the brake alone, I mean, that's like the biggest thing that people don't understand. Starting with those like T300s or G920s or whatever they start with. I mean, you either have, for me, what I started with, you either had full brake or you had like no brake, and it was so hard to control that brake pressure. And now that's all I constantly try to do throughout a race. I mean, I'll be one of the first ones to get on my brakes in a race, and that's just because I feel like I can control that pressure a lot better to try to save tires.
Right. Yeah, I get it. And that's kind of how I was. I mean, you go, like you said, you had either all brake or no brake, and once you switch, it's a huge difference. I'm sure being having raced in real life, it gives you more of a feel of what it was like actually racing, having that full functionality of the brake pedal, that full kind of axis, as some would say, of little brake pressure, depending on how you push it, to full brake pressure is throughout a run, in comparison to what you were dealing with in real life. So from there, you join iRacing, you get all the stuff, and I'm sure, like most of us, you did your first, you got your license all the way up, fought through the fun of officials and getting, wrecked by people being mad at you for stupid things, and then you find leagues. You mentioned Nick and Ken in Stars and Stripes, and of course a lot of those guys came over to form Full Send, and that's kind of where we picked you up at, was in Full Send, when we covered the Xfinity series. But you had already been in there, I believe, the season before that, and kind of were a troublemaker from what I heard. So what was your first experience with the Full Send guys in league racing in general?
Yeah, so the league started for me with, we were trying to get me into Stars and Stripes with Holland and with Ken and all those guys. Because, at the time, that Thursday league, what we thought was, and they're still great guys over there, but, that was the league that everybody wanted to be in. Because Travis hadn't really formed a league yet. But yeah, so that was the original plan, was to try to get to Stars and Stripes the best way we could. But in order for me to get there with not really having much experience, because I'll be honest with you, I mean, I jumped into league racing like within 2 months of being on iRacing, and that's one of the things that I kind of regret a little bit. But at the same time, I'm like super thankful for it, because I've learned so much in league racing. But anyway, so I am gonna start like working towards Stars and Stripes, and speak with Holland, and Holland's like, well, yeah, Travis, one of the guys that runs Stars and Stripes, he's doing this league on Tuesdays. That'd be a great league for you to start in and see, how you're doing and how to pick up on things and get some experience with these guys, so that way when you jump into the Thursday league, it's not full on go, worried about running in the back, whatever. I was like, all right, man, like, let's do it. So I get attached with those guys on Tuesday there. Holland didn't really run the first season with me, which was cool, because it gave me a lot of time to learn Travis, hang out with Travis and them. But so we get to the Tuesday stuff, and I start running with those guys, and this is where the regret kind of comes in. My lack of experience in iRacing kind of sent me to do things in iRacing that a lot of people don't really like, as in running people super hard from the get-go. and just kind of dooring people. I mean, I've struggled with running on the inside of somebody for so long, and it's just the natural push that the car gets in the middle of the corner because you overrun it. I struggle with that for the longest time. I'm naturally now starting to pick up how to do that, but so yeah, started racing with those guys, and right away, I mean, I struggle bus through the first season and a half with those guys, and then once I got my pedals because I got my pedals with those guys, we ran a season in trucks that you guys didn't broadcast. It was right before the Xfinity season,
Right.
And I got my pedals, and it naturally clicked. I didn't get any wins, but I started, running a lot cleaner and running towards the top, and that's when I realized, okay, like I got it. I got what it'll take. I just need to fine tune some things, and now I'm still fine tuning those things. The past season and a half, a lot of it was a lot of the troublemaker part from controlling my my anger switch. Um, I do tend to get nasty with people pretty easy, but I had a lot going on in my life that I wasn't happy with, and that was sort of a life experience for me that these guys helped me realize that there's a lot of things that I need to control and just start to enjoy the moment with iRacing, and that's a lot of what I've been trying to do the past 2 to 3 seasons with these guys now, is just try to enjoy the moment and try hanging out with these guys and having fun for sure.
Yeah, the sense of community and kind of, sort of family sense that you get once you get into a league with guys you like and you've been around them for a while is really nice. And just all the events that you can do, with members of your league, like special races that iRacing does, it's super cool to see. But going back that first season that we covered, I think you got two or three wins in that season in the Xfinity car. I know we missed the first one at Dover.
Yep.
I know there was a little bit of controversy there. With some contact with you and Aaron Hale. And I can't remember the other couple of, I don't have my notes from last season with me, but I think you got 1 or 2 more after that. Went into the playoffs and just kind of didn't have the same momentum going into the playoffs that you had in the regular season. Came up short there. Didn't make it. Did you make it? I can't remember. Did you make it to the Final Four, or did you get cut out in the round of 8?
No, so I was the 4th driver in the round of 4.
Okay,
and ended up finishing 4th. Okay. Yeah.
That's right. I couldn't remember quite. So you end up in the championship 4, finish 4th. Mm-hmm. This season coming in, you're always one of the guys, especially when we go short track racing, concrete tracks, that I always, have my eye on because you tend to be fast there. You're fast at Bristol, got caught up in a couple of things. Wilkesboro, you seem pretty quick, and I think had a couple of incidents and still managed to have a pretty decent finish. But Watkins Glen, your first win of the season. I mean, you and Zach were the class of the field, and it was about who didn't make the most mistakes. And Zach made a couple more than you did, but you pretty well walked away with that one. Get your win into the playoffs, locked in. Now we've got Michigan up next with Darlington, Dover, and Talladega to end the regular season for this year before we get into the playoffs. I mean, how are you feeling going into these last 4 races or so before we get to those playoffs?
I'm feeling pretty good, honestly. I mean, I always feel like every track we go to, I'm pretty close to the top of the speed charts. I mean, I try to do the best I can every week, and there's a couple tracks that I miss, and I feel like a lot of it is the tracks that kind of have the heavier braking zones, or the tracks that I want to say you got to save a little bit more, just because I'm still trying to learn the saving aspect a lot more to better me in the longer run of the race. But so Michigan, I feel pretty good with. Honestly, I don't like the tracks that don't take as much finesse, like Bristol and, I mean, you named it, Dover. That's one of my favorite tracks now. But a lot of tracks that, I'm not saying Michigan's an easy track, but Michigan to me is just ride around like we saw at Pocono. I mean, I don't know what happened with the iRacing sets or whatever, but Pocono, the last time we went there in trucks, before you guys started broadcasting us, I went there and led like 20 or 30 laps. I don't know. I led a lot of the race, and I started to pull away. And everyone else had the draft behind me, but I was pulling away by myself, and that all had to do with tires. But lately, with some of these tracks, like Michigan and Auto Club was the same way. Like, at Auto Club, I really struggled this year because I ran the top side, which used to be good at Auto Club when I first started with iRacing, and now it's like you can't really run the top side anymore. You kind of have to run the slider line, which I didn't realize till like halfway through the race, and by that time I had already had damage, so Auto Club I was done. But anyway, Michigan, I mean, I like it just because it throws a good wrench in there, but I'm really excited about the next couple tracks after that. Darlington takes a lot of finesse, so I'm super excited about Darlington. Plus, we haven't ran Darlington yet in full send, so I love tracks that we've gone to that we haven't ran yet because it's a whole new experience for everyone. But then Dover, obviously, that's where I got my first league win. I'm super excited about Dover, so which is kind of weird because when I first started league racing, I hated Dover. And then last year during that Xfinity race, I don't know what it was, but something just clicked, and I was there, and I stayed there the whole time. And Cam should have gotten me at that race, but he helped me out. He knew how much that first win meant for me, so big huge shout out to him for that. But anyway, so after that, what did you say the last one was? Talladega, right?
Yeah, Talladega, and it'll be the cutoff race, and we all know how Talladega is a cutoff race to the playoffs. How that one's going to go down. That's just a survive and see what kind of chaos happens in front of you, essentially. But
I don't like them super speedways, and it's just I don't know how to qualify there, so I always end up like starting like mid pack or towards the back, and I always end up finding my way up front. But then I make like one dumb mistake where I'm either speeding down a pit road. Last year when we ran Talladega, I won the first stage or finished second or something, and I came out of the pits first, and I didn't realize or remember that I had to drive around to the blue cone and got black flagged. So, but yeah, I mean, super speedways, they're super speedways, so that one will be a toss up. But yeah, I'm excited. It's been a good season. We started out rough, but that win at Watkins Glen, I mean, dude, that was a huge thing for me because I honestly didn't start picking up hardcore road course racing until January of this year. So for me to be able to go out there and, have it with those guys, I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that race.
You put on a heck of a show there. And coming up in the playoffs, I mean, the first round, Vegas, and then the Indianapolis road course. I mean, I know it's not a road course that a lot of us are familiar with, especially the new layout, but road course nonetheless, and based off your performance at Watkins Glen, I'm sure that's got to be one that you have semi-circled on your calendar. But then, the second round is Atlanta Super Speedway, and then Martinsville, another kind of finesse short track before we get to that of Phoenix. I mean, to me, based off kind of what you've said, what we've seen from you, I mean, those two rounds kind of fit your type of driving style.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was really cool to speak with Travis because I gave a little bit of input on what we thought would be a good playoff schedule this year, and I was super happy that we did something different. I mean, we had ran Las Vegas forever, and like since we started, and it's our fourth season now. So some of those tracks just get old to me because I know how they're going to drive. So they just get old, and seeing that difference in the schedule, I mean, now that I've gained a lot of strengths in certain places, definitely super excited for the playoffs and see what we can do. There's going to be a lot of tough competition. I know Zach is the one to watch this year. I mean, last year when I saw him jump in with us, I was like, who is this guy? Because I had no clue who Zach was, and he jumped in one of the first races with us, and I think it was Charlotte. He jumped in, and Charlotte's like one of my best tracks. and I started pulling away from everybody else, but Zach was catching me, and I was watching the relative, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is catching me. Like, what is going on? And from there, I knew that Zach was an amazing racer. So
Yeah, Zach, I've raced with him in a couple of leagues, and you never think of the broadcaster as being a fast race car driver, but man, I'll tell you what, especially you put him at Indianapolis in the oval, and it is scary how quick he is there. And I remember that race last year for you guys when he came there in the Xfinity car, and just
yeah,
it was like his playground there. But I mean, so, Zach will be in the playoffs, obviously. Stitz has a couple of wins this season. Ross finally got his win last week at Wilkesboro. Cameron still yet to get his first win. I mean, he's a two-time champ in the league. And then your buddy Nick, I mean, he stole a win there at Pocono with the calamity out of turn number 3. So, I mean, you look at this playoff field, and I mean, Nick's got speed too, week in, week out. I mean, those guys right there aren't necessarily going to be the easiest guys to beat. And then you throw in the wild card of John Dart, Campbell, Wade, just all the winners this season. And I mean, that playoff field. I mean, what are your thoughts on at least the winners so far this season, and plus the couple of guys that might point their way in?
Yeah, it's been awesome to see, a little bit of not somebody going out there and dominating, because the first couple of seasons I ran with those guys, like, I want to say the first time that we ran trucks, Medlin went out and won like 5 or 6 races. And it was cool. Like, I was like, dang, man, like, someone's got to beat him, like, and it made a challenge for someone to beat him every week. But I think it's awesome when we see, a bunch of different guys get in there, because, like you said, I mean, there's people that show flashes of speed at every different track. I mean, one of the newer guys, a couple of the newer guys coming in, like, you don't know what you're ever going to get with new guys that come into leagues, but Jonathan Woods popped off the first win there at Daytona.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I never saw that coming. I was like, where is this coming from? And then at Charlotte, from what I watched from the broadcast, he ran up front. So he's going to be one to watch. But a lot of those guys, super good buddies with, just because we all race so close together, and always talk about the races at the end of it. But I'm super excited. I mean, I love the field of drivers we got, honestly. I wouldn't trade any of these guys that we race with for the world, honestly. I mean, that's what keeps me coming back on Tuesdays. I've tried a couple other leagues, and nothing compares to what I have on Tuesday nights with these guys. It's some of the best fun I've ever had.
We love covering it every Tuesday. I mean, it never seems to fail. The racing you'll put on is just spectacular, and it's always fun to call. Especially, I mean, you go all the way back to Pocono. I mean, we've had 3 green, white checkered finishes in a row, and then we head to Michigan, and Michigan, the kind of mini super speedway as it is. I mean, we saw how exciting Auto Club was, and we were kind of expecting the same thing. But Cole, that's gonna pretty much wrap it up. I mean, is there anything else you want to add to this tonight before we call it a night?
No, I just want to give a couple shout outs here, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
All right, perfect. So the biggest guys I definitely want to shout out is Ken Campbell and Andrew Medlin. I definitely had a couple tussles with them. Not really liking my driving style when I first started out. And they're kind of the ones that got me to where I needed to be with iRacing. I mean, they taught me some things that, I never really even thought of, and that's a guy coming into iRacing with actual real life racing experience. So, huge shout out to both of those guys there, and huge shout out to Cam as well. Definitely miss my buddy this year. He was my teammate ever since I really started league racing, so kind of miss him this year, but it's awesome to still run with him and be able to hang out with him outside of Tuesday leagues. But definitely miss laughing with him on Tuesday races in the middle of the race. But also huge shout out to Travis. I mean, he brought me in with open arms, and we talk all the time, and he tells me what I need to improve on still, and yeah, he helps me all the time with everything with iRacing. So definitely big shout out to them. Huge shout out to everyone else at Full Send as well. Like I said, love running with those guys, and then also huge shout out to you guys as well, up in the booth there. You guys do an amazing job every week. I mean, I've never seen a broadcast done like your guys' broadcast, and the amount of clarity that you guys can get on a broadcast is insane. It's like we're watching a regular race every week. So, but yeah, that's just about it, honestly. And can't forget my girlfriend though. She deals with everything that I gotta complain about every night. So, love her to death. And yeah, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. I'm sure all the guys will appreciate the shout out. We definitely appreciate the shout out. I know it comes across clear, but let me tell you what, sometimes in the background when we're on commercial breaks, we're talking to each other going, man, we are just out of it tonight. But thankfully, it all comes together in the end and everybody enjoys it. But Cole, we greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to be a part of this, which will be the third podcast that we've done so far. Come out, I believe, toward the end of this month. So we look forward to getting everybody's together. But definitely appreciate you stopping by, and good luck at Michigan on tomorrow night, actually. So good luck tomorrow night, and hopefully we're talking to you in Victory Lane or in our top 3 interviews tomorrow night.
Yeah, sounds good. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you in the booth soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Crazy how we find our ways into different leagues. Great talks from Trevor and Cole. And now let's head over to the Wicked Racing League, where myself, Sam Dyer, got to talk to Alex Coffey about getting ready for the playoffs that are right around the corner. Well, welcome everybody to the cool down lap with that of Alex Coffey from Wicked Racing League. Alex is a driver who's been here since season 1. He's got himself tied with the most starts in Wicked Racing League with 29, with that of Blaine Wilson. But besides those starts, he's got 5 poles, 5 wins, 14 top 5s, and also 19 top 10s. Alex, it's great to have you. You look at those stats. You're one of the top dogs in the Wicked Racing League. How are you feeling coming into having this cool down lap conversation?
That's actually my first time hearing those stats, so I've never looked at them as a whole. But I feel good, man. It's good to be here. Glad you wanted to have me on here. So yeah, excited.
Yeah, I mean, you were one of the people I really wanted to talk to, Alex, just coming into this, because we're recording this right before the playoffs for season 2 begin, and kind of wanted to get to know you before we get to see your racing action with the playoffs. And speaking of that, introduce yourself to the Freaky Fast broadcasting world.
I'm Alex Coffey, drive the number 7 for CNC Esports in the Wicked Racing League. Yeah, I've been iRacing well, I got my account probably 2008, 2009 when it first came out. I was on R Factor before iRacing, and took a break off iRacing, I think 2013. I didn't play up until 2021, so a few years back at it now. So yeah, I just had a lot of racing experience in real life as well. So that's how I got into the sim racing, actually.
Well, let's touch on that, actually, then. Real life racing experience. How much real life experience do you have?
I raced for 8 years when I was age 8 to 16. I raced Bandoleros, then Legends cars, then I did a year in late models, all on asphalt. I think I ran one dirt race my whole career in a Legends car. But yeah, I raced at Atlanta Motor Speedway mostly on the quarter mile, the Legends cars. Mainly all in Georgia. I raced with a few guys that are in Cup now. I did a few seasons with Cendric and Byron, and I did a few races with Chase Elliott my first year, but I never was competing with Chase Elliott because I think he was a few years in. It was my first year, so it was that was a rough year my first year for sure. But yeah, it was a good time though.
Well, that sounds like a blast. I know for myself, I always wanted to try out real life racing, but my family, we never had the money to get into it. So we were like, yeah, we'll just have fun watching it instead.
Yeah. So it goes down the line with my dad raced go-karts when he was young, and his dad raced Daytona back in the day when they was on the beach. So yeah, it's kind of a family thing
Wow,
with us.
that's crazy. So that is a long lineage of racing action.
Yeah, yeah. And even my grandfather on my mother's side, he used to drag race back in the day, so a little bit. So yeah,
Okay.
it comes from all directions, I guess.
Well, that's incredible to hear that where that all that came into. And I feel like the most generic question always comes to how much does real life racing come into iRacing? Did you feel when you made that transition, or just most simulators that you've raced in?
Um, it does cross over a lot. I mean, just the basics of driving and how a car feels. I feel like with simulation, I got into it so young that I can't really tell you too much of like a main difference. I haven't driven a real race car in a while, and I sim raced for a while, even when I was driving real race cars. So it did definitely. I would say when I was racing, it being younger, it helped a lot with just situations, being able to say miss an accident or just different situations. I mean, it's really a simulator, so it puts you in a lot of situations you could race every day of the week, and you're gonna have different situations pop up than if you're just racing one time a week in real life. So that's the main thing I would say it helps with just racing, racecraft, and awareness and all that.
Well, taking that, being able to race almost every day, leak racing, what got you into wanting to do leak racing, or were you always about official racing?
I just got into official racing probably last year, a year and a half ago. I mainly used to do a lot of league racing just because I like the point system. I like the seasons. I just, racing with the same group of guys, you're able to learn people better. Um, I used to racing with the same group of guys mostly throughout a season. So it was just that consistency of having the same group of people and going for all for the same championship, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, bringing it to Wicked now a little bit more. You've been here since season one. You're also part of the admin group that helps with the Wicked Racing League. How did you get into becoming an admin and wanting to help with the Wicked Racing League?
Well, with the initial conversation, me, Buzzio, John Curtis. He hasn't been here too much this season, but he was around for season one most of the time. Me, us three, Nigel Christensen included. We were kind of in another situation or another league, and we just kind of just all moved over and had the same idea. And Buzzio was the manager, and he did a good job, so he just transferred over to being the manager here, and we all came up with the idea kind of collectively, and Buzzio was just he's on top of stuff most of the time, so he uh he put his foot forward, and here we are.
Well, here we are for sure. Season two, about to set up for the playoffs. I know this season's been a little different than season one. Season one, it was kind of all Gavin's show, it felt like, for the
hmm
most time. This season, though, you found yourself in victory lane a lot more often, but also have been in conflict with Gavin. How has this season been so different from last? Because that's just from our point of view, that's what it seems like, is you and Gavin are getting
Yeah,
at it a lot more often this season than last season.
yeah, I would say there was a little bit of that last season too. I guess it was just more not in the moment of but there was some back and forth last year. But I don't have no problem with Gavin. He's a very great driver in my opinion. It's just we're always battling. We're always beside each other. We both race each other hard, and we both don't give each other an inch. So, I mean, it's not like every time me and Gavin are around each other we make contact, but we do. If you're around the guy most of the race, every so often there's gonna be contact. So I try not to trying to make anybody mad on a personal level or anything like that. But yeah, it's just this season has been more. I don't know. It's just more contenders up there with us. I would say that are consistently up there in the mix in the fight. Um, we had a lot of new teams and guys come over this season, and they've been real successful too. So
Well, we're heading into the playoffs. First race is going to be Charlotte, and at the time of us recording it, it's going to be tomorrow. How are you feeling about going into these playoffs and your confidence level of trying to go for a championship?
I'm feeling pretty good. Charlotte is not my favorite mile and a half, and Michigan's not my favorite track either. But the other three they're all right for me. So I hope we have some good runs in these next two, and then the three after that should be able to lock in and make a run for it for sure.
Those three being Dover, Darlington, and Kansas,
Yes,
for
sir.
those listening. And what makes you feel so confident about those three tracks if you can get to that point of the playoffs?
Um, Dover is a real tight, fast track. I mean, I just like Dover. I had pretty good success there last year. Darlington's the main one I'd say I'm looking forward to. Just short track or relatively short track, and I've ran a few Darlington races in another league, and then officials were there a month or two ago. So done a lot of Darlington, feeling good there. And then coming off Kansas win last year, hopefully we can double that up.
I hope to see that happen because I feel like you really this season it's been fun to watch you develop as a driver. I know from season one, you kind of got the reputation of someone that was always aggressive at all times. That aggression seems to still be there for season two. Was there always that thought of I need to be up front at all times type of a mindset, or has it been evolving in how you want to race?
Um, well, like I said, I mean, I come up from Legends cars on a flat quarter mile and stuff. If you wasn't giving the bumper back when you get in the bumper and moving a guy you might be a little quicker than you wasn't gonna be in the top five. So uh, it comes from that. I try to tone it down a lot. Um, but I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's fine. I think that's a
Yeah,
good enough answer. If you grow up a certain style, it
yeah.
sticks with you.
It's hard to break some habits. I'm not trying to run anybody over or trying to wreck anybody. Definitely, that's not my intent. But I'm not afraid to use a bumper if I'm feeling. I do feel sometimes to get up there a little quicker to be out of a danger zone. I guess you could say on certain tracks. Um, and then certain times there's races where I feel like I run real good, run real patient, and then I get collected by just something off the wall. And those are kind of some letdowns and make you kind of turn back aggressive, I guess, the next week. But you got to be aggressive sometimes if you want to get up there.
Yeah, I feel that. I know as someone that was driving a little bit in season one and just one race in season two, I knew whenever I saw you in the back, it was like, well, we got to get out of the way. Alex is coming. But we always knew you were the fastest driver to get up front. You're always contender, and it was fun to watch. But so stock car racing, we know that you race in it. You've grown up in Bandoleros and all that, like you just told us. Are there any other cars that you've tried to test out that you enjoy racing on iRacing just for fun?
I do enjoy driving the F1 cars. Our all-star races there. I'm not very good at them, but they're pretty fun to drive. Um, I guess I would say the rally cars would be my next up when it doesn't come to oval, like rally cars or the trucks, the Pro 2 trucks. I like those a lot because you can be aggressive in those. I mean, even in real life, they beat and bang all race long, and those trucks are indestructible. So, I like that. It's a switch of asphalt and dirt on one track. It's fun.
Oh, that's my honestly the Pro 2 Lights is like my go-to just to get aggression out.
Oh yeah.
And it's I love it way too much. That was my go-to for I would say for about 2 months. That was the only thing I was racing. I was like, nah, ovals having their own thing. I'm just gonna go to race Pro 2s and
Yeah.
actually learn how to drive these things. But I don't do it anymore just because they took away the Joker lap. So now it's just
Yeah.
like it's way too
Yeah.
aggressive now.
If you don't have an e-brake in those cars, it's kind of hard too. I have a button for my e-brake, so not quite as accurate with my e-braking as some of those guys, but it's fun though for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I did the same question back in episode 2 for Adam. What is something that people maybe wouldn't know about you if they weren't talking to you daily?
I make music. That's correct. That's the same answer Adam gave, but I make music as well. Yeah, that's the main thing I would say. Just the music side of stuff.
Well, what type of music do you enjoy making?
I'm a rapper, so
Ooh.
yeah.
Okay.
You can check my music out. DNSG Perez on YouTube. You find my videos and stuff.
Okay. How long have you been
Parental
getting into
advisory on
that?
there, real quick though.
Oh, okay. We'll make sure we put that.
Gotcha.
We'll put it in the disclaimer for sure.
Yeah.
But how long have you been into rapping, or is that just a genre that you just got into?
Yeah, probably. I made beats back in high school, and then I started rapping probably 5-6 years ago. I kind of don't do it too much anymore, but still out there, still music out there, still music coming. So yeah, trying to get back focused on it a little more.
That is so. That is wild though that both you and Adam both get into music.
I didn't know Adam did music until I watched his interview, and I actually had a conversation with him after that about it.
That's awesome. I think that's one thing I like about the cool down lap is it does give us this opportunity to like learn about the drivers just a little bit more than we would, and kind of similar to Adam and I. This is our first time, Alex, getting to really talk with one another. So this is always fun to get that kind of figure out one another type of a feel. But
yeah, for sure.
Same question that I asked Adam before as well. Any questions that you might have for the broadcast team or just for me?
Let me see. You feel like we put on some good shows, or anything we could do better on our side as drivers?
As drivers, I mean, you guys certainly put on some of the more entertaining shows. If we don't know what we're gonna see, if it's gonna be someone just dominating, or if it's gonna be kind of a wreck fest at times, I gotta say though, making the top 5 finishes of the month, you guys always at least have one race that's there. You're just like, how did that finish happen the way that it did? No, I think you guys are doing great. It's one of the better leagues that I think I've seen grow from season 1 to season 2 and see how you guys have progressed. And it's been a joy to watch.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Well, I hope y'all enjoy the playoffs, and we'll try to keep it going.
And that's one thing we're excited about, playoff time, on how these final 5 races are going to go. Well, that is going to be our segment of the cool down lap. If you'd like to listen to more of Alex's and I's conversation, we will have an extra episode that'll be posted on its own later. Honestly, that was a great talking with Alex, getting to hear about his family history and as well getting to get prepared for the playoffs. And Zach is getting prepared on Thursday night. Zach Hall got to talk to that of Ross Tatum from the Stars and Stripes about his glory in other leagues, as well getting prepared for that of the Throwback ARCA Series.
Welcome to the 3rd episode of the Cool Down Lap. I'm Zach Hall, and tonight we're going to have our 3rd episode of the Stars and Stripes segment here on the Cool Down Lap, and I got an excellent driver here with me here to discuss some very interesting questions I think I've got scrounged up for him, and that's Ross Tatum. Hey, Ross, thanks for joining me, man, and how are you doing today, and how's the season been going?
Thanks for having me. Season's been going good, man. Can't complain. Just need some more wins, but other than that, it's been a great season so far.
It really has been, Ross. I tell you, it's always fun to watch you, in my opinion, just because I feel like you're one of the most consistent drivers out there, and it's always a pleasure to watch you out there on the racetrack. So it's going to be cool to see how these playoffs work out for you. We'll get more into that, but really the first question I wanted to get into is, how did you find Stars and Stripes? What was the way you got in there, and because you were a rookie last season?
Yeah, I ran with Christopher Wade in another league. League was Monsters of Dirt and also the ECRS. And Wade, for a couple seasons, had been trying to get me over into Stars and Stripes. He kept bragging about it, talking about how good it was. And I could kind of see the writing on the wall in the other two leagues that they were kind of starting to fall apart, maybe. And so I told Wade I'd take him up on the offer, and so came in here last season, and it's been probably one of the hardest, funnest leagues I've ever ran in my life. It's really competitive, it's really well ran, and it's just all around a really fun time every single week.
Well, man, it's a pleasure to be up in the booth calling the action week in and week out on Thursdays, and it's been fun to watch your growth through those 2 seasons. Because, like you said, it's been almost now 2 full seasons here. If you did have like one word to describe the league, because I know you just brought up so many good adjectives about it, but if you had like one word to describe somebody, and this is like the one word you felt like was kind of behind Stars and Stripes, what would it be?
Probably just, probably just competitive. I mean, it is. I mean, there's no right way to race in Stars and Stripes League. You can save tires, and there's 3 or 4 other guys that can save tires, and they'll be racing you. Or you can go hard, and there's 3 or 4 other guys that can go hard and race you hard. So I mean, there's no right way to win in this league. It's very competitive. There's not a single track that I go to in this particular league that I feel like I really have a good shot at winning. It's very difficult, very hard to win in. There's so much good competition, like McCoy and Ricard and Robinson and Oogle. I mean, all these guys are so good, and I guess that's just the only word I can think of to describe it. It's just such a tough league to win in.
It is very competitive. That is for sure. That's the one thing I love about being up in the booth. It's week in and week out. We have no clue who's going to be the driver to beat. It seems like it changes each week. So it's definitely, I think, a great word to describe it there, Ross, for sure. And, like I was saying, you were a rookie in season 5 last season, and you had an amazing rookie season. I mean, 2 wins, 7 top 5s, and you made it to the championship Final Four. Now, that championship race at Michigan, I went back, did a little research because I was fond of it just because I called the race, of course, but I wanted to make sure I got a little bit more insight from it. And remembering back to that race, you were actually leading going into the final segment of green flag pit stops, and you actually decided to take 2 tires because we saw you made a mistake coming down pit road where you kind of messed up into your box. I want to know, was that 2-tire call like a decision you had already made, or is that kind of like an audible, like on the fly, like, oh no, I've messed up my pit stop, so I'm trying to save some time?
Yeah, that was a that was a big time audible. I about 2 laps into that, I immediately regretted it. I knew I'd completely messed up. Earlier in the season, before iRacing had updated, you could take 2 tires and be really, really fast. And something about Michigan did not work for those 2 tires. I was so loose I couldn't drive it. And I was racing against someone who put a lot of laps in and knew exactly what they needed and knew exactly how much the fall off and stuff was. So I didn't know all that. I didn't really, I think I'm kind of like you. I don't really practice much. Once you've ran a track so many times, you don't really feel like you need to practice much. And I should have probably put in some practice that week. I took those 2 tires, and it was bad news bears. It was. I definitely feel like I threw that championship away because I thought I had it in the bag going into the last pit stop. And I think if I'd have just taken 4, just went ahead and taken 4, I think I still would have been in a good position there. My tire wear was really good, but you live and you learn, and hopefully, I don't think I'll make it this season, but if I did, hopefully I would come out a little bit better, a little bit more prepared this time.
Well, I love that insight because it just shows what we're all going through as drivers, like throughout a race. I think that's what a lot of, fans out there watching sim racing don't really understand is like we're all micromanaging in the background, all our strategies, all our, deficits to people. We're trying to figure out ways to make those better. And I think, making that audible call there to take 2 tires, I can't blame you at all for it. I mean, that's a decision that you're making. You're saying, man, this is time I'm losing with a mistake here. I need to gain it back some other way, and it can be easily done. So, I mean, yeah, it's I thought that was the case, personally, just looking at it from the outside, that it was probably an audible call. And I'm glad to hear that, yeah, that was the case there. Because, yeah, 2 tires at one point did seem to work in that next-gen car. I mean, that's one thing with iRacing, the ebbs and flows of the updates and how these cars change over time is a thing that really you got to keep up with. And like you said, if you don't get enough practice time, you kind of just got to go with your gut feeling, and sometimes your gut feeling doesn't work out always.
Yeah, it was I don't even really I put that so far in the back of my memory, I guess, but I don't even remember what I exactly did on my pit stop. But yeah, I just remember it being audible, and I remember just being so mad that night when I was trying to go to sleep because it was just like it was right there for me, and usually I'm pretty good in championship races. I think I'm like 5 for 6 in my life, so that was I think that was the only one I've lost when it's been a championship for. So that was tough.
I know the long nights of sitting there thinking about a championship for sure. You got a much better stat line than me when it comes to those championship races. I know I like to crumble under the pressure a lot as a driver, and it's tough. It is very tough to go out there and perform those championship races when it's one race on the line. So, yeah, it was so close for you last season, but I think even though you said you don't think you'll be in the Final Four, I think you're going to have a good shot of it for sure. But that kind of transitions into this season, the season 6. They transitioned to the ARCA car. And I know that transitioning car to car can change your driving style and your approach so much. What have you had to go through the season? Because we've even heard in a few of your interviews that you're still trying to, find your way with this car because it's just so different than anything else out there, I feel like.
Yeah, it's been a curveball for me. Me and Jonathan Woods ran the ARCA car a couple years ago, and we kind of figured it out and we got good. And I thought that the same thing would happen this year, and it just hasn't happened. There's something with tire wear that just doesn't match up with the way I drive. A couple weeks ago, there was an official week that I practiced in, and I think I figured some stuff out. So hopefully, moving forward, I'll be a little bit better on the 1.5 and 2 miles. But it's gonna, the thing is like Scott and McCoy are so good at the 1.5 miles that I'm gonna have to be perfect. I gotta miss the second playoff race, so I'm gonna have to be perfect at Charlotte to even have a chance. So I don't know. The thing with the ARCA car is it's inconsistent. Some weeks it really matters if you take tires. Some weeks or if you save tires, and then some weeks it doesn't matter at all. I remember at Texas, second race of the season, I was just riding around thinking, okay, tires are going to matter, tires are going to matter. And I think we were like 50 or 60 laps into the race, and me and Josh Robinson were sitting there in like 19th and 20th place, and we could not move forward. And I think I remember telling Will and Jonathan that I just got to go. I just got to go to the front. I'm not even going to fool with it. And it was the right call. And then the next week I tried to do the same thing, and I fell right to the back. So there's no right or wrong way to race with these cars, it seems like.
It does seem that way even up from the booth. Watching lap times, watching just people with their certain driving styles, I can see where some days it seems like you need to save, and then some days you just need to go get the track position and just go forward because it just evens out so quickly. So I think that's definitely something with the ARCA car that is interesting, that it changes from track to track, setup to setup. So I definitely know that's got to be tough to stay on top of. And you alluded to it that you're going to miss the second race of the playoffs there, Richmond. So going into Charlotte, I mean, the playoffs are upon us now. You're entering that first round, and like you said, 1.5 miles, maybe haven't been the strong suit for you this season, but do you feel confident at least at that 1.5 miles? Because I know 1.5 miles to 1.5 miles, it can change stylistically for drivers. And, I mean, do you feel confident at least going into Charlotte that you can get a good enough run to where maybe Richmond won't matter?
Yeah, I think I can finish top 3 at Charlotte if everything goes right. Thing about Charlotte is everybody's good at Charlotte. It doesn't matter who it is on iRacing. Everyone, I don't know if it's because it's the first track everyone gets in races or what, but everyone's best 1.5 miles to me seems to be like Charlotte for the most part. So it's going to be really tough. I mean, there's 8 cars. There's 8 guys probably I can think of right off the top of my head that could win there on a long run or any kind of run. So I don't know. It's going to be tough. I think that was the track I was kind of practicing at. So hopefully I've got it figured out. I don't really want to show my cards right now, but I think I can finish top 3, but we'll see.
Hey, man, I think you definitely got the potential for it for sure. And, if you can get through this round, get through the next round, and get into that Final Four, the last race is Bristol for a championship race. I mean, take us through the thoughts of that being a race for a championship. And then also, you won there in Season 5. So does that kind of make the confidence higher if you were to get there and race for a championship?
Yeah, I would say it does, but Thomas Ogle is probably the best person I've ever seen at Bristol. He is so good at saving his tires and being fast. And I would say I would feel confident about it if it wasn't for that. But also, McCoy's really good there. Scott's really good there. The usual suspects. Um, I think making it there would be enough for me. But like I said, I got to make it through the first round. I don't even know what the races are in the second round, but I think the tracks kind of line up good for me. I think there's a lot of tracks I'm pretty good at. Short tracks are definitely my wheelhouse on iRacing. So we'll see. Hopefully I can make it to it, but if not, it's still been a good season. I got to win at a track I didn't think I could win at. So, I can't complain about how the season's gone. I just wish I'd been a little bit better in the regular season, so maybe I could have got more playoff points.
Well, it's going to be, I believe, Auto Club in Kentucky for that second round. So we'll see how those play out for you there. And I know that, they change cars each season here. For example, at Stars and Stripes. And there is a vote going on, I believe, right at the moment for the next car. And at the moment, it seems like the Gen 4 Cup Series car is winning. How do you feel about that? Because you got a little bit of an early taste with that, with the little bit of the mess up iRacing had there at the fairgrounds.
I think it'll be really fun. I think it'll be really fun on short tracks because you're really gonna have to control the throttle, which is what I used to be good at on iRacing, but now, basically none of the cars have horsepower. So I think that'll be a good challenge for everybody. Hopefully we can get a few more people that'll show up every week next year. If we could get 25 to 26 consistent people every week, I think next season could be really, really fun, especially with those cars. I think with the extra horsepower, the tire wear will matter a little bit more than it does right now. So yeah, if the Gen 4 wins out, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm definitely looking forward to it if that is the case too. I was thoroughly pleased with horsepower. I think it makes racing just that much better for mistakes to pop up and chances for people to make passes. So I hope that's the way it goes, but we'll see. Right now it is winning the poll, but that'll be all decided more in the future. And now to kind of get into a more broad subject of just sim racing, if you had to tell me one strength and one weakness you have in sim racing, Ross, what would it be? Because what sticks out to you that you feel like this is something I excel at and this is something that I need to work on probably more?
Excelling at definitely probably just saving tires. I kind of figured it out probably 4 or 5 years ago how to save them pretty well. Up until like 2018, I was not good at saving tires. I was one of those people that just went and as hard as I could go, and I just run into everything. I never even won a league race until 2020. So um, I've been on iRacing for 12 years, so that kind of tells you how long that was. But it was, I would definitely say tire wear. It's where I'm good at right now. Also, just staying out of trouble. I don't really race people that hard unless I just don't like them. Then I'll race them hard. Um, but then as for a weakness, I've never been able to figure out the road courses. I could put hundreds of laps in at Watkins Glen. I think I did put in like 50 laps at Watkins Glen a couple months ago and didn't help me. I can't figure it out. I don't know what it is. I've watched videos. I try to, the biggest thing for me learning is just watching other people make laps. And I watched videos. I did laps. And road courses I just can't figure out.
They are definitely tough. It is fun to see. I think people that are so talented when it comes to the oval side of things, and then they try to wrap their head around the road course side of things. I feel like it just kind of comes naturally sometimes. I know there's people who can make that transition to find the speed on the road courses, but I mean, some people are just, I feel like it just suits their style overall, and it's definitely interesting to watch. So I think you'll improve on it over time. I mean, and what's cool to hear from you is just how long you've been on iRacing, first of all. I mean, I've been on here since 2014, so I'm coming up on my 9th and 10th year, and I can tell you from where I was then to now is night and day for sure. We had our peaks and valleys, but it's cool to hear that, you know, it took you that long to get a league win, and then once you've gotten it, you've kind of, you know, built upon that and had so much success throughout all the leagues that you race in. So that's a really cool factor, I feel like. And with all those, you know, memories and how long you've been here on iRacing, what is your favorite actually sim racing moment? It doesn't have to be iRacing. It could be anything racing in general for sim racing. I mean, I know I have a few, and anything that sticks out in mind to you.
Let's see. I think I have two. One was the SMB champion, next to last race in the playoffs. SMB series was a series that Sam probably remembers. It was a couple years ago. It was a very competitive, very crazy series. Lots of trash talking. It was just a mess all around. And you know, there was this one guy that just kept. He was just an issue, and I came out and I won the next to last playoff race to get into the championship race. I was way out of it because I had been wrecked and all types of stuff in that round. And I don't know, that one sticks out to me. I remember winning and just like being super happy about that. And then the other one was probably the Full Send Championship last year. I don't know, you can probably go back and watch the replay, but I was going through 1 and 2. I about spun it because I was a little nervous right there on that restart. I got completely sideways, but luckily someone was side by side back there. So those are the two that really stick out to me. I can't think of any more off the top of my head, I don't think.
Yeah, those are great moments to have, man. I know I have a few in the back of my mind that I always think too of, you know, especially when I'm kind of having a down race or something. I just think back and say, hey, look, it could have been this, and it can get better next time. So there's just another race around the next corner. So it's always fun to hear people's you know, favorite moments from that. And then last question I'll have for you is, what is actually your favorite vehicle to drive in iRacing? Because I know there's so many wide varieties of cars that we have. I mean, road cars, oval cars. I mean, we got stuff that races on dirt, jumps. I mean, there's everything you could want. But if you had to pick one car to just every race it was in this car for the rest of your sim racing career, what would it be?
Well, for years and years, from 2009 until probably 2021, it was the trucks. They were the best vehicle on iRacing, in my opinion. I loved them, ran them all the time. I remember racing with Josh Williams all the time. We would just run C-Fix after C-Fix after C-Fix back in like the early 2010s. And then, like, I don't know if they took horsepower out of it or what, but now I don't really like the trucks. They're just, I don't know, they're weird to me. So probably my favorite vehicle right now is probably the next gen. Believe it or not, I didn't think I'd like it. I thought I'd hate it, but I think it's the next gen just because there's so many different ways you can race it. You can go full out and be fast for 10 laps and, you know, get way ahead, or you can just kind of ride around and, you know, be there in 20 laps, you know. I think that's what made last year so fun, was that there were so many different strategies every race. I remember falling back to like 15th one race and then leading like maybe 20 laps later. It was crazy. It's just you know, I like when there's different strategies. I feel like so many of the cars now on iRacing are very similar, and so just to have one that is a little bit more all over the place is a lot more fun to me.
I'd have to 1000% agree with you. Yeah, I know I've been racing the trucks on Tuesday nights on Freaky Fast at Full Send, and I was I was not a big fan of going from that Xfinity car to that, just because I just don't like the momentum style racing that you get with a lot of the lower horsepower, high aero cars such as the truck, and surprisingly it's actually fit me pretty well, so I was kind of thoroughly surprised by that. But yeah, the next gen I think is a blast to drive. I've had my quarrels with it. You know, I've had ups and downs where, man, this thing is not fun to drive at certain tracks. But if you get the right tire fall off, you get the right such strategies you're saying where you fall back and give up positions, that thing is really fun to drive. So it is one of those things. I think it comes race to race, but it definitely is always fun to see how that next gen does. So that's cool. I like your opinions on those because I'm pretty much in the same boat with it. It's definitely very ever changing, and a lot of things feel very similar even now too. So it's hard to differentiate, and that next gen definitely differentiates than all the other oval cars. So it is it's a beast itself. But man, I tell you, Ross, this has been fun to learn more about you, man. Get to know a little bit more about your sim racing career, because I have a blast, first off, racing with you, calling your races. It's always fun to be out there if it's not on track or in the broadcast booth with you, man. So I got, first off, thank you for joining me. And, before we get out here and close the podcast, anybody you want to send a shout out to that's out there watching?
Yeah, I just want to send a shout out to all the people I raced in leagues with, in Stars and Stripes and Full Send, and if anybody in my family ends up watching this or listening to this, I don't really talk about my iRacing stuff very much because for a long time, iRacing wasn't very cool. It was kind of nerdy. But then like 2020 happened, and now people kind of respect it, I guess. So, I'm not as reluctant to send stuff out now about it, but yeah, just thank you to everyone watching. Thank you to you guys for doing stuff like this. It's so innovative, and it's so cool that you guys are always thinking outside the box. So thank you to Freaky Fast for sure.
Well, Ross, thank you most of all, man. Without drivers like yourself, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So it's definitely a mutual relationship, as they would say, man. So thank you to everybody who's tuned in here to this segment of the episode. It's always a pleasure to catch up with guys here on Thursday night, especially great drivers such as Ross, as they got great backlines and great stories behind their sim racing career. So thank you for tuning into this part of the segment. Thank you to Sam Dyer for doing all the work he does on the podcast, and we'll catch you next time for episode number 4.
That was great hearing from Ross and Zach from the Stars and Stripes Racing Series. Now let's jump over to Saturday, where Robert Moyer Jr. gets to talk to Rich Jamison and the rich history that Rich has in racing and his world travels.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cool Down Lap podcast here with Rich Jamison of WSSR and the driver of the 86 car. I do believe you're in a Ford. Correct me, I'm not. But welcome to the podcast, man.
Of course. Yep, definitely in a Ford Mustang. I've been a Ford guy all my life, so yeah, was an easy choice.
Oh, very easy choice. Yeah, I'm a Toyota guy myself, so it's very easy to pick, inside the game, basically what you run unless you get on a team. But yeah, so right. Welcome to, the episode number 3 here, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, it's Rich Jamison, driver of the 86, runs every Saturday night with WSSR, and he's looking pretty good. Has some up and downs races so far this season here, but overall in general, he's plugging away at it, and he's doing the best that he can, to get there. But Rich, give us a little bit of feedback on yourself, who you are, and different things that you like, and little information. And right before we started this podcast, I asked you about that thing right there in the back of the ground, and you gave me me a little bit of a detail on that. So if you don't mind sharing that to all the viewers out here, we do much appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. First off, thanks for inviting me there, Robert. This is pretty cool for me. But yeah, so this sign back here it says Opa's Pit Crew. And what you can't see behind the seat or behind my head is established in 2008. My daughter had given me a Father's Day gift a couple years ago, and I'm a grandfather. And in Germany, they refer to them as Opa. And my first grandson was born in Germany in 2008. I have 5 grandkids, so she gave me that. She knows I do this racing thing, and so she gave me that as a Father's Day gift. And it was actually just the metal piece. That's actually some iron metal thing. I put it on the board and all that and lit it up and stuff just actually earlier this year and finished that up. So it looks good on my stream, and I just thought it was, I like having it back there so everybody knows I'm an Opa.
There you go. So how many grandkids do you have then? 5, you said, right?
I do have 5,
And,
ranging 15 to 9.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. You're right with me, man. Right with me. I know how it feels. I got.
Absolutely.
I'd have to count with my fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, like 7. So
Oh, yeah.
I got to count. I don't got enough of a finger. I'm running out. I run out of fingers now, man. So eventually you tell the grandkids, you got to slow down a little bit here.
Just a little, yeah. But I've got 2 sons.
Okay.
In their 20s, so there could be more in the future. But right now, it's just all with the daughter at the moment.
Oh, there you go. So you said you got 5. So what are they? 3 boys, 2 boys? What do you have?
So Sean is the oldest. Melina is the first granddaughter, second child. Then Nico, second grandson, and then Kimberly and Ziva are all the grandkids there.
Oh, that's an interesting name, Ziva.
Ziva, yeah.
I've never heard that.
My daughter had a thing. Yeah. She had a thing for names and stuff, and she picked some really good ones. They're all really cool.
Yeah, it sounds cool. Hey, you talk to your daughter next time. Tell her Bravo's on that one, because that's I don't want to say oddball name, but I don't hear that.
No, it's definitely unique.
Yes, most definitely. All right. Well, hey, just a little bit, about your racing career. We talked about your grandkids and everything. So congratulations to that, to you and your wife, and all that stuff. But I'm looking in the background here on your stuff, man, and I see 2 racing wheels. I see a decal on your wall. I see it looks like maybe you have 3 monitors, maybe, I'm assuming.
I do have triple monitors.
You got an eye flag up there. I mean, you were decked out, man.
Well, this didn't happen overnight. I've been doing this a long time, and it didn't start out like this. My first real wheel, if you will, was a Microsoft Sidewinder.
Oh my!
If you remember those?
Yeah, I had one. I had one, black one.
Yep, I still have mine. It's actually in the closet.
Oh, really?
There.
I actually just threw mine away.
I just can't get rid of that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, back. So if you know when the Sidewinder came out, that was back in the original NASCAR racing games with Papyrus and all that stuff, and that's really what got me kind of where I started with all this. I was stationed at Robins Air Force Base in Georgia. I did 24 years in the Air Force. Retired in 2011, and my neighbor, when we moved to Georgia, was a NASCAR fan. I was a NASCAR fan, and he was into this online racing thing, this game called NASCAR Racing, and he got me hooked, and I've been with him ever since. I've done all the titles all the way through NASCAR Racing 2003, and then of course all the Project Wildfire mods and all that kind of stuff.
My goodness.
And right. Did all that stuff, and then I had signed up for this email list for this thing called First. Most people in iRacing have probably heard of it, but it was kind of the Dave Kamer, the Boston John Henry kind of got together. They got the code of NASCAR Racing 2003 from Papyrus, that whole story there.
Yep.
And they started First, and I said, well, this could be something. Let me sign up and just so I know when they come up with something.
Right.
So was it early 2008? I was in Germany at this time, stationed at Ramstein Air Base there in Germany. And I got an email from First asking if I wanted to be a beta tester for this new thing they had coming out called iRacing. I was like, yeah, I do. So signed up. And so I was a beta tester for a short period of time before they went public later in 2008. So I thought that was really cool, and some of the stuff we got to do is really neat. I'm guessing the statute of limitations has run out, so it's okay for me to say that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
you had to sign the paperwork, all that kind of stuff.
I'm assuming that's way gone.
Yeah. So I started with iRacing since then, and I haven't left. I've just been here the whole time.
Wow. So did you actually do some beta testing within it?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
I think it was probably around 2 or 3 months before they went public and released it to everybody. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was back when I think the main car then was the what's it called? The small one. I can't think of the name of the car. I can see it in my head, but I can't think of the name. But those first couple of cars, the Legends.
Yeah, okay.
The Legends.
Right.
That's what it was.
Okay.
And just that stuff. And I just thought this was so cool what they were doing. And the thing that really sold me on them And what they were going to do is, when I first started signing up and I signed all the paperwork and all that stuff, and I tried to sign in and it asked for my address. Well, my address was either my German address, because I lived off base, or I could use my military mailing address. Well, the military mailing address didn't work. So I sent them an email and said, hey, I'm having these problems, blah, blah, blah. Probably 20 minutes later, I get a phone call at my house in Germany. And it was somebody from iRacing. Wanting to work with the problem with me about my address and getting signed up and getting my account created. And I was like, wow, this dude's in the States, calls me in Germany on my home phone just to fix a small problem like that. These guys probably have the right idea about what they're trying to do.
Right.
And just ever since, I've just been so impressed, and kind of, of course, getting a little glimpse about the background once you're in that program and kind of understanding what they do and how they do it, getting a little glimpse there, I thought was really cool. And I just love the product that they keep putting out. The whole service itself, I just think is cool, and it's fun. It's just plain fun.
Yeah. And well, if you're a race, just a general race car driver, or in real life or sim, I mean, to me personally, I've been down that road, Rich, to back in NASCAR 2003 days, Papyrus. I actually downloaded all them mods. Back in the day, I used to have called Hosting Freaks, and I used to host websites, and I host 5 of the biggest NASCAR painting sites and NASCAR 2003 Papyrus sites. And so nice. That kind of all died when that was back then, when Facebook wasn't Facebook yet. And I'm sure anybody that's going to watch this, maybe you even remember, Rich, MySpace. Remember
I remember my daughter being on MySpace. Okay. I was never, but I remember my daughter.
That was when MySpace was the thing, before CBS bought MySpace and tried to make it the next big thing. But that's when Facebook was just starting up, and they were just getting traction. And I didn't want to leave a platform and go to a new platform, because I was like, well, I'm so used to MySpace. This is cool. This is what I want to, I'm going to hang out here. You can't teach old dogs new tricks, basically. But my wife, which back then was my girlfriend, she went over and started messing with it, and I was just watching her do her thing, and I was like, okay, I'll jump ship and I'll go to my Facebook. So that's when I found iRacing, people posting pictures, things like that. But at that time, I was leaving NASCAR 2003 and going to R Factor. You used to have a mod with R Factor called Stock Car Evolution. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's a NASCAR.
I think I have, yeah.
Well, I have. I helped beta test that a lot.
Sweet.
A lot. Like, I know the latitudes of tires and physics and you name it. I used to spend 6 hours driving around, like change 2 numbers, 00.2 to 00.4, and drive 80 laps and see what it did to the tire. And after that, you're like, well, it didn't do nothing. Okay, well, let's go 00.8. And then you go another 80 laps. Well, that didn't do nothing, or it made it worse, or made it good.
That's a lot of time, dude.
I'll tell you, a lot of beta testing. But I did that for like 7 years, and I got an email from iRacing. I signed up for the little short term 3 months, because they still back then they haven't changed it from today until what it was back then. And I signed up, and it was a free trial for 2 weeks. Again, came to teach old dogs new tricks. So I didn't want to leave a game that I played for 7 years and go to something new. But, everybody's in this big hype of this iRacing thing. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Well, wasn't my thing. Really, it wasn't. Then I got an email probably about a year later, and I don't even know what year it was, but a year later, asking me to join iRacing for $1 for a whole year, $1. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
What's $1, right? I mean,
I never got that deal.
I don't know if anybody else did, but I did.
No,
and I was
I imagine not too many people did.
So I signed up. Yeah, it's only $1, not knowing that if I'm going to race it or not. Well, the more I played with it, the more I fell in love with it, the more I liked it, the more the graphics were better, the more this, the more that, you know, and it just led to the next thing. And then, you know, make the story short is here we are now, you know, and, you know, I'm 14, 15 years into it now, you know, somewhere around there. So I missed a couple years of iRacing, but I've been with them basically from the start too. So
nice.
Yeah.
There's a few folks that have been since the beginning or before the beginning, so to speak, but yeah, not too many. I guess the biggest influx was, of course, during COVID and things like that. But man, it's been really cool to see how it's grown as a service, and some of the things that they've been able to do. Some of the motor racing things. For me, I never really watched like GT3 racing or IMSA or anything like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're like me too. I was all oval NASCAR.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But now since I could drive them in here in the service, supercars, another one I love.
Okay. Yeah.
So now I go find those things. Yeah. I go try to find a YouTube channel or some videos or watch the races now for those other forms of motorsports and not just ovals anymore. So, I imagine a lot of people end up doing the same thing. So I think iRacing has been a good thing for a lot of racing organizations that they've been able to partner with and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that. I'm right with you on that there. So anyway, so before we get on to like a little bit of next subject, like we were talking about in the background, what wheels do you got there? I see a couple. Well, you got a wheel on your wheelbase there, and then you got two hanging on the wall.
So for the longest time, I had a G29, G27, G25s, all those, right?
Yeah.
And I kept hearing about the direct drives, but they were all so expensive. So and I heard about Fanatec's direct drive and how they were coming out. I said, well, as soon as one of these direct drive wheels comes within my price range, I'm jumping on it. Well, when Fanatec came out with their 8 nanometer or Newton meter direct drive wheel, I jumped on it. And I went through all kinds of iterations. So I got the NASCAR rim, of course. This was the one I used for supercars and Porsche Cup. And then this I use for, you know, the F1 style or any of the cars. I try to use the wheel that's in the vehicle.
Right.
So so I just have just these three and I try to use them whenever. But yeah, mostly it's this one, especially on WSSR night, of course. This is the cup car and most of the ovals that I drive, I use this.
Nice.
And I have V3 pedals, the inverted kind down at my feet.
Okay.
I love the load cell, made a huge difference. So yeah, but it's just kind of these wheels and stuff kind of only came within the last year. Last year is when I really started buying this stuff when they came out with this direct drive and all that stuff.
Okay.
Just slowly adding, trying different things, you know, moving around and just trying to find something that works. And right now I've got the stuff that I like and I'm pretty much done spending money on gear.
So you say.
Well, for this year anyway.
Right. Well, this year, wow, you got a long ways to go and not spend no money. I don't know, man. You might not be able to make it to the end of the year.
You're probably right.
We got 9 more months yet here to go. There's got to be
at the end of the year.
You're right. There'll be some. I'll have to do a follow up on a podcast and be like, "What you spend?"
Yeah, there you go. you may next podcast you may see me in a rig.
Wow, the motion sensor.
That would be the next step. Yeah. And I've been looking. I'm just trying to hold off on buying.
Oh, that would be so sick. Yeah. So yeah.
But that's a huge price tag.
Yeah. So we were talking. That's cool that you got your setup there and everything and working on that. But you're also talking about you have your own stream. You do your own stream. POV version and everything, I guess, on Twitch, I'm assuming. Now, granted, I haven't had time to go. I don't watch a lot of things. I haven't had time to literally go check your channel out, so I do apologize. One day, hopefully, maybe I'll get there. But what's the name of the channel? And we'll get it in the link in the description when this video comes up.
Cool, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's Rich_Jamison Jamison 86.
Okay.
On Twitch. Every Saturday when I'm doing WSSR, I'm up on the stream. Sometimes during the week, if I'm home during the week, where I put some races in, but really that hasn't happened lately. So Saturday evenings during the WSSR League race, that's the most consistent time you'll find me on Twitch.
Okay. So mostly Saturday night then.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, speaking of, WSSR, they are, rolling along in their season here. You're having you're having some good races, and you're also having some bad races.
Yes.
You know, how's your season going so far that you feel right now, and what do you think you could improve on, you know, to maybe get to that next step, at least to get into the top 5, or
Right.
or are you not that type of driver where you just go out, you're having fun, things happen, it is what it is, and you move on. If you get a top 5, yay, it's a win to you, you know, one of those, you know.
Yeah. So I'd love to be up front, top 5 with those guys that are consistently up there all the time. And I do what I can. I've been with the service for a while. I got some decent equipment now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of those guys that needs the equipment to help overcome some other inadequacies in my driving, if you will, right? Some guys can just look at stuff and drive and be fine and be good. Others, like myself, just need a little bit extra help with the equipment. So I think I'm there. Really, I think the thing that would put me in that realm of top 5s with those guys is just more practice and track time. And unfortunately, with my work, I just don't have that. So most times I get home from a business trip on a Friday night. Saturday, I'm up doing stuff, you know, with the house that needed to be tended during the week, spending time with the wife. And, you know, I'm usually jumping on the practice session just before the race airs. And that's really the only laps I get at most of these tracks, unfortunately. Now this week we're going to Motegi, and I've been home, so I have been able to put some practice in. So I'm hoping that that's going to put me a little closer to the front. But you know, like you said, sometimes you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah,
and I have made some mistakes on my own as well. The road course we were just at not too long ago. Same kind of, that was the deal. I just made a couple too many mistakes. I think I can do it pretty well, but I just made a couple of mistakes that put me farther back than I wanted to. I think I could have got a top 10 out of there. I think I finished P13 in that one.
Yeah.
So I was kind of there, but it's just track time. For me, it's just the track time. And I think I could be up there.
Yeah. I mean, I see it too. Yeah, and I agree with you. You know, seat time is so huge, and you know, when you're working all week, and you know, a lot of people just don't have that time, you know, to put in like you really want to. You know, I'm one of them people too, Rich. You know, I've done it for, you know, in the same boat as you. You do it for so long. You race these tracks so many times. You comes to the point where, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but you come comfortable where you feel you don't have to practice because you're like, I know the layout, I know the car, I know what I know what to do, but that doesn't that doesn't put you to the next step. That, you know, tire wear, you know, things like that, which it's a big thing here now in iRacing, as they're playing with the new, you know, tire model and everything. So yeah, I'm right with you on that, man. And I'm sure you'd want to get, you know, more practice in.
Yeah, you know, and you think when you do the practice, or when you get the opportunity to practice, you go out and you do your laps and you think you're feeling pretty good, and then you show up for the race and you see these guys that are putting down much faster laps. And you're like, well, okay, I got to get to the next level. And that's one of the things I like about WSSR is there's folks faster than me.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps me trying to push myself to be up with them. But there's also folks that I'm faster than. And so I can still get decent finishes out of it, even though I'm not top 5 yet.
Oh yeah, and you learn from the faster guys too. You know,
absolutely.
You really have to. You know, I've always had a saying: you can't be perfect, but you can be better. You know.
Better and consistent, I think, helps as well.
Right. Agreed. So, you know, with saying that, you know, as we're rolling through the season and everything, and talking about iRacing, I always ask everybody this, so it's kind of another same question that they heard on the last podcast. But what favorite car do you like on iRacing? Like, what's your niche? Like, what is it that you know you like?
So, you know, the NASCAR Cup car next gen right now is you know, the fun car. It's the one I'm most comfortable with.
Okay.
But I do enjoy the V8 supercars.
Oh. Those
things are such a blast to drive. And what sold me on getting that and buying the car in the service was the engine sound. I listened to some videos or whatever on YouTube about other people driving them in the service. And I was like, man, that is badass. I need to be in that thing. And then
Yeah.
you watch the real world videos and of the things, and now they got their new vehicle out. So I can't wait for iRacing to get the new version of, supercars in the service, because I'll be, take my money kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd say the V8 supercars, although I don't get to drive it as much as I'd like. So right now I do a lot of the GT3 or Porsche Cup if I'm not doing ovals.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're starting to sound too much like me, Rich. It's kind of getting scary because
Oh, God.
I'm the they came out with the Ferrari, and I bought it. Why?
Yep.
Because I love the engine sound.
Yes.
I don't even want to drive the car, except just go around, drive the car, and hear the engine sound. I could care less about anything else. It's just I like the engine sound, and So yeah, take my money for engine sounds.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime I drive the supercar, whether it's a practice or something, I'll sit back before I get out of the game. I'll put the replay on and just watch my car go around just so I can listen to it.
Listen to it. Yeah.
It's just so cool.
Yeah. I don't blame you. So, my next question to you is, growing up, like watching NASCAR, what got you into racing? What, was it your dad, your mom and your dad? What made you get into in general racing?
My dad was a carpenter, so he was always on jobs. Nothing racing related at all.
Oh, wow.
Nobody in my family was racing related.
Okay.
But I do remember that Daytona 500 that got televised on CBS, where they were fighting at the last lap, because they wrecked each other. That famous one that kind of opened up NASCAR to the world.
Right.
I watched that.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that was the coolest thing. And then I was into just cars in general from that point. Smokey the Bandit, all those movies back then with the car chases and stuff. And we had a go-kart. My brother and I had a go-kart way back then. We just, going around the neighborhood a little bit. The speed that I felt in that go-kart first was, I fell in love with it. And it's just, ever since then, I've been interested in cars and building cars and engines and understanding how they worked. I did models all the time, little car models, and I did the visible V8 model. I built that, so I understood how an engine actually works, all that, but way back when. And it just started there and just never stopped.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's cool. So growing up, as you got into your teenager years, did you, wind up with some hot rods or anything that you?
Well, I wouldn't say hot rods in my teenagers. I was into truck. My dad became a truck driver after he finished carpentry, so we got into big rigs and stuff like that. But I had pickup truck. I had a Ford F-150, and one of the first things they did when I bought it used was pull the engine and rebuild it, just because there was nothing wrong with it. I just wanted to do it, and I had a blast doing that.
Nice.
And so, and then of course, through high school, that was the truck I had. I joined the military. I sold that to my brother, and I had other vehicles throughout the years. But right now, I have a 2007 Mustang convertible. That's the first hot rod, if you will, car that I bought brand new. And I actually bought it while I was in Germany, so I got to take it on the Autobahn quite a bit.
Oh, how's that? Give us a little detail on that, man.
Man, the Autobahn is amazing. And when they say there's no speed limit, there are places on the Autobahn where there are no speed limits. And other places where there are speed limits, they're pretty high. So, and I remember going to a drag race they had in Germany at some, I think it was in Berlin. It was some old airfield that wasn't an airfield anymore, or it was amazing to me. They had one of the taxiways set up as a quarter-mile drag strip. They had the timing lights and everything, but they weren't permanently mounted. They were kind of set off to the side, measured out and all that stuff. And what was funny is they would send the cars down, but they didn't have a return road. So everybody that raced had to go down there and wait until their class was done. And then they'd all kind of, stroll on back to the start line and, get ready for the next class in between and stuff. So, but that was cool back, for me. At that point, I drove my Mustang to that. Never raced it there, and I'm kicking myself these days because Nürburgring. Never. I could have gone probably once or twice if I had known about it, but I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
but I could have gone and had a blast there. I know, in that car.
Oh man!
And it wasn't until iRacing put it in the service, I'm like, I was there. I could have done that, and missed an opportunity there. But Germany was amazing, especially having a Mustang because there weren't many of those there. Having American car like that, big American car like that.
Yeah,
and it was fun. 110, 120, easy.
Nice. That's cool, man. Growing up, I was a Mustang fan, a fan of the 5.0s. Growing up in my teenager years.
Yeah, mine's got the 4.6, so but one day I'll swap it.
I remember when the government made them get away from the 5.0s. They said they were too fast. People were killing themselves with them, and that's when I think they went to the 4.9s or 4. Well, I can't remember. Maybe it is what you have now. I know they went a tier down to try to slow the car down. And look, that musclehead guys, you can put whatever you want and do whatever. They're going to make it go faster.
They'll find a way. Absolutely.
It didn't matter. They put it and make it a 5.5. So that's basically
that guy that
what I
got me
did.
into NASCAR racing back then in Georgia. He had a 5.0 coupe with a convertible.
No.
So
my
really
boss has a white one and he won't let me drive it. I don't know why. I don't know why, but trust me, I'll bring it back. I mean,
in one piece.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, right?
Yeah, so I mean that's cool. That's cool, man. So my next question to you is here. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rich Jamison, the 86, the Ford Mustang at WSSR every Saturday night. Make sure you tune in and root him on. And like I said, he's got his own little point of view stream that he has. You heard it earlier, and we'll put it down with the link in description so you could be able to go out there, give him a follow, and watch some of his content that he puts out there.
It was great to hear from Robert and Rich. And if you would like to hear more from their conversation, we're actually have a longer piece of all of their talking points because they went for a full hour of talking with one another, which will be posted later on in the month. And for myself as well, for my Sam Dyer and Alex Coffey, we got to talk more in depth, and that will be posted later on in the month as well. Well, thank you for being with us, episode 3. We'll see you next month for the Cool Down Lap to hear from more drivers as the seasons are coming to a close next month.